Martin Luther King Southern Christian Leadership Conference movement. They used it in a number of ways against citizens that were either protesting peacefully or people that were organizing around issues in their community, people that were involved in electoral politics and so on. After the Black Panther came into being, they turned that program on the Black Panther Party, and they used it. And in fact, the statistics show that there was like 395 COINTELPRO operations against Black liberation movements, and I think 330 some of them were directed at the Black Panther Party. So the majority, obviously the overwhelming majority of these programs were directed at the Black Panther Party. And the program was designed to use agent provocateurs, police informers, state, local, and federal agencies and agents were all part of the program, and any time they wanted to, they could use the state police units, or they could use the local police units, or they could use an informer that was located in the local jail, or anybody. They had a vast apparatus of resources to use, and pretty much they directed those resources to people that they targeted, organizations that they targeted and designated for destruction. And within a lot of those organizations, they inserted agent provocateurs, and that's a person that works for the FBI or the local police or whatever, and pretend to be a member of a particular organization, but is in that organization to create disruption or even create some type of crime that can justify the authorities to lock up, arrest the rest of the members of that organization in conspiracy charges. One of the things that they did in an example in New York, they took a guy, his name was Gene Roberts. He had been the bodyguard of Malcolm X. In fact, he was with Malcolm X on the stage when, well, he wasn't actually on the stage, but he was the first one on the stage after Malcolm X got shot. He was on the stage giving mouth-to-mouth respiration to Malcolm X when Malcolm X passed away. Black Panther Party by him under the direction of one of the organizations in New York called BOSS, which was used to sabotage or undermine any kind of organizing that was going on in communities of color. And the jury heard all this up, and they, in an hour's time, they let everybody go. But people have been in jail for like 2 years. The leadership have been in jail for 2 years based on his testimony, which was something that he had concocted, and it was an effort to destroy the New York. In fact, it did in fact achieve its goal, because it did cause serious problems between New York and California because of the bail money, the legal defense fund, etc. And New York and California end up splitting as a result of this particular program. And so here's like one agent provocateur that's really an official police that's supposed to be serving and protecting, that's sabotaging organizations and actually framing them and falsifying information to frame them and keeping them locked up for 2 years and draining the finances of the organization. And this is the kind of stuff that they were doing. In Chicago, they did something else. They could not figure out how to cope with the organizing that was going on in Chicago, and so they assassinated the top leadership in Chicago using another agent provocateur, Neil, and who ended up drugging the leadership, Fred Hampton, which was the chairman of Illinois and so on, ended up drugging the leadership in their place residence of sleep, and then actually setting them up and framing them with illegal guns. And the police raided the place, shot everybody in the place, of course killed Fred Hampton, and justified it by the presence of those illegal guns, which turned out to be guns that O'Neill had brought to the place, which turned out to be guns that the state's attorney had given Neil to bring to the place, which Neil had been working for the last couple of years. So this is another form in which agent provocateurs operate, you know. So here he is, he's operating for the state, and he's creating crimes, and then he's causing situations in which other people are being killed, and it's justified all the way up to the highest rim of the government. And then there are like little minor kind of things. I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's one more example, and then I'll stop. You know, Stokely Carmichael